Hi everyone! Today I'm very excited to celebrate hitting 10K subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing, everybody. If this is the first time you're tuning into the channel, well hey, it's a good time to tune in because I'm going to be talking about the top 20 games of all time. Now these are not just my favorite games of all time, which yes they are, but they're now your favorite games of all time because they are the best 20 games out there. And honestly, it's gonna be 21 because I made the list and then I looked at the list and thought, wait a minute, why isn't that thing on there? And then I realized that I actually made this list and did all this ranking like 4 months ago, and so I had to manually shift some things around, and turns out I've been playing a game and realizing its brilliance since then, so it deserves to be on the list. That game is Brass Birmingham. And the little mini game that we're going to play with this first 20, and maybe up until number 1, who knows, is saying, is it better than Brass? And we'll see where Brass slots in. But I'm really excited to do this. I haven't done this on the channel yet. And so this is me putting forward my ideal games. The ideal games that I love, 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 love. And there's a lot of pressure in a list like this. There's a lot of pressure, but you know what? We're going to get through it together. I really like seeing what people are excited about, and I am personally excited to talk about all these games with you. So starting with number 20, which would have been booted off the list, and honestly, like I know where Brass is going to fall, but it's weird because when it wasn't on the list, it was purposefully sitting at like number 22, and then it got bumped up because I felt like I was making it purposefully sit down there because I wanted to be unique. But the truth is, I really like this game, and so might as well include it as really our honorable mention. It is number 21. So that's a later one. And that game is Blood Rage. Blood Rage is by Eric Lang. He is probably my favorite designer out there. It is a wonderful area control game for 4 players, sometimes 3, and never 2. But this includes an awesome phase of card drafting at the beginning of every round as you try to suss out your opponents and see what are they going to actually do, and then draft your card, and then get your hand of cards to the opponents and say, dang it, you did the opposite, and now my strategy is foiled. It's got a really fun back and forth of, do I upgrade now? Do I try to invade? Have I invested enough action points into my upgrades, or should I invest more action points into moving and maneuvering troops on the board? You just want to get the most points and honor the gloriousness of Valhalla. I got Blood Rage on a whim. I did. It was at 401 Games, my local store. It was on sale. It was 10% off. And this is when I was really getting into the hobby, I think when Blood Rage had first come out. And I thought, that looks really cool. It was recommended. It was a recommended game from the game store. And I thought, yeah, they're recommending it. Cool new game. I'll pick it up. I'll try it out. And that would have been, I don't know, maybe 2016, something like that. I don't know when Blood Rage came out, but I think it might have been around 2016, 2017. It would have been around that time, and I took it home and I played a 2-player game of it as my first game, and I still really enjoyed it, and I turned my girlfriend off of playing this game ever again for the rest of her life. And so that's why it's my number 20. Well, really 21, but my number 20 because yeah, I still think it's really fun. I'm actually playing a game of it online right now, and it's reminding me how satisfying a decision space it is and how quickly this can play, even though we're playing turn-based and it's taken probably about a week now. Even still, the fact that I can get back to it and be excited about every move made me want to include this on the list. I feel like it's on a lot of people's lists. It's rated very highly, and if you haven't played it, you should check it out, because that's my number 20. Now, my number 19... we'll put this over here as they will start to stack up. My number 19 is a game that I don't own, but my good friend Zach owns, and so I always play it at his house. And this is specifically the second iteration of this game because I think that's the better version, and I had kind of both on the list, and I thought, that's ridiculous. This is the better version. Take the other one off because they're too similar to really warrant having both. And so that is Nemesis Lockdown. Nemesis Lockdown tells such, and Nemesis really, tells such cinematic experiences. I can probably remember little details about every single game of Nemesis that I've played, and they've all told such vastly different stories. And the fact that that a game can provide such a wonderful cinematic and memorable experience for the group really sends it soaring to the top. The mechanics, honestly, the mechanics aren't even that great when you think about it. The mechanics are good, but it's more about the storytelling and the feeling that this game gives me, which is why I want to put it up here. The fact that I can remember a game where I was trapped in a room and Zach had the opportunity of closing all the doors and trying to kill me, and then I burst out of there to jump through the vents to go into the nest to pick up an egg where the queen arrived and set the place on fire, and then I couldn't escape with the egg, which was the only thing that I wanted to do the whole game, was get this stupid egg, and I couldn't escape from the egg, so I had to limp out of the room and then try punching the queen in the face with my hands as I was just taking wound after wound, whereas Zach is laughing up above where there are no aliens and he's just causing chaos down below. It can create such like wildly funny scenarios to look back on and to think back on, and think there have been 2 games of Nemesis that I haven't enjoyed, or haven't enjoyed to that extent that I thought, it was okay. And I can see how that can honestly happen with Nemesis. It's a big price point for what it is, but it's still just such a blast that I've really enjoyed all of my plays with it. And that's why it's my number 19. Now, number 18, I also don't have, and this isn't because I don't own a copy, it's because my friends loved this game so much that they stole my copy and they haven't given it back. But this game came out of nowhere for me. I remember playtesting it and thinking, oh yeah, this is good. It's a roll and write, and it changed my opinions on roll and writes forever. It made me realize what roll and writes were capable of, because I always felt like roll and writes are kind of like a solo experience. And so this Dinosaur Island Roll and Write changed all that for me because it felt a lot more interactive. And so you're going to roll your dice and you're going to draft those dice in a snake draft, and you get to use that, and you get those things as resources, and then you can use those dice to choose your actions and block other people from taking the actions. And they can take those actions as well. They can put it on top of your dice, but if they do, they take danger and threat in their park, and their animals get a little bit more angry. I just love this game. It's such a great price point. It's so interactive for a roll and write. I even like the little polyomino puzzle where you're drawing your park and trying to maximize the space in your park and be efficient about getting to the exits first. The fact that they throw in new different variable buildings each time and variable specialists each time give it just enough replayability for me and just enough variance that I can play it over and over and I don't feel like it's the same thing. Whereas I feel like that with a lot of roll and writes. It kind of feels the same experience when I play through it, and this one, there's so much shaking up with the rolling of the dice and depending what you get that it makes it very exciting to play. And so yeah, Dinosaur Island Roll and Write was a newer game to me, and I desperately want my copy back because I enjoy playing it so much. I think a testament to the top games, or at least my top games, is ones that I would want to play solo. Like, I don't play games at all solo. Really many games at solo, hardly at all. But these games I would play solo because I enjoy them so much. So Dinosaur Island Roll and Write, that's my number 18. My number 17 is a nice chonky Euro. I love a good chonky Euro. I don't know how, I feel like I have a wide variety of stuff on this list, but for me, I'm like, when you look at, and maybe I'll do my top 50 next year or something like that, when you look at like 50 to 21, there's so many just chonky Euros in there, and this one has made its way into the top 20. It's so good, and that is Le Havre. Agricola is pretty close. I think Agricola is like 28. But Le Havre makes its way up there a little bit more because it gives me all the variety of the different cards of Agricola without sort of the punishing nature of someone only having access to them. Everybody can use everyone else's buildings. It's worker placement in a sense, but you can buy buildings, and that's how you get points. You want to buy buildings, but everyone can use those buildings as long as they pay you the fee for using it. And so it's this give and take of what buildings do I want to buy, what buildings are worth more points, what buildings help develop my own engine, and then also timing out if you actually even want to purchase buildings, or if you want to take all of the stuff, all of the resources that are building up turn after turn. Every turn, more resources get added to different common piles, and you can choose to take all those resources or spend resources and do stuff and do an action on a building. And so because you only have a finite amount of choices, I mean, you do have quite a few, that choice still matters, what you take and when and how you let things develop. I also think I enjoy it, this is my favorite Uwe Rosenberg, I also enjoy it because the food feeding system is there and it is integral, but it also feels a lot less punishing. It feels like you're able to get a handle on it. There are more avenues of getting food and trading resources for food, whereas I feel in a lot of his other games, it's very sort of just food-centric. Uwe has been hungry every time he's designed one of these. I understand. But this one, because that feels less punishing, but there's still an enormous strategic depth, Le Havre is one that I'd absolutely recommend checking out. Now, talking about cinematic experiences mixed with some Euro, up next we have Pandemic Legacy Season 1, number 16 of my favorite games. And this should tell you something because, you know what, I haven't even finished this campaign. We started it, we got halfway through, and then our group disbanded, and you know what, I'm just gonna tell them that I'm finishing it, and they can show up to the game night or they can't. It doesn't matter to me because this is a game that I feel like you owe it to yourself to play and experience. If you haven't, there's so many campaign games out there that are not as good as this. There's so many legacy games out there that are not as good as this. This is my favorite campaign and legacy game that I've ever played because of how the experience has developed, the changes to the story, the surprises. It has made for some of the most exciting game nights out there. And everybody was talking about it back when it came out. It was number one on Board Game Geek for a long time for a very good reason. It's such an incredible experience that I think people end up pushing down on their top lists because they haven't played it in a while, because they forget that experience, because they're talking about the newest thing. But I still think that like this deserves to be in my top 20 games because of how much fun it is and how still I am looking forward to getting it back to the table. It's just so awesome. It really is. Pandemic is already like a really good game system, and this just knocks it completely out of the park, makes me forget about it because it's just so much better than an already solid good game. That's all I have to say about Pandemic Legacy, so I don't spoil anything. But just this one thing. No, I'd never do that to you. I would never do that. Moving along to number 15, and honestly, I'm so excited this is on my list because I feel like you will never find this game on anyone's top 20. You won't. You just won't. Honestly, I feel very proud that there are a few games that I love and I love to champion that aren't the usual suspects. And there are a few of the usual suspects because honestly, the usual suspects are good. But this is one of those where I think it is criminally undervalued, and that is the deck builder that killed Dominion. This is Trains. What a silly, ridiculous game. It looks so boring. It really does look incredibly boring, but it is so fun. This, for me, is what Dominion is to a lot of people. Dominion blew people's minds wide open. People love Dominion. They talk about its variability. For me, Trains gives me everything that I want from Dominion, and it gives me a board. And if there's one thing I love better than deck building, it's deck building with a board. In Trains, you start with 10 cards like most deck builders, and you can use those cards to get better cards. The card market, there'll be 10 different cards, very similar to Dominion, that you choose randomly at the beginning of the game. There's 20 to 30? How many? I mean, it says over 500 cards, but you know, most of those are literal garbage as you collect trash in your hand for some of the different cards' abilities. But yeah, on your turn, you'll play your cards, you'll buy new things, and you can also develop your presence on the board where you're just putting little cubes out and creating a route. And if you get to a spot first, great, you kind of claim that spot. If somebody else wants to go through it, they're going to have to pay a little bit more because you're already there and you're established. You want to hit up different cities and develop those cities as well, because then you get points for being connected to cities that have large developments. And you want to get points from your cards and points on the board, and just how you juggle those two things makes it super fun, super quick. I love the additional element of that board and that added puzzle, and it just gives you a few more resources and things to consider when purchasing cards and when creating that deck of cards. For me, Base Dominion especially gets so stale. It just gets so stale, and Trains has not gotten stale for me, and I would play it any day of the dang week. And I'm so thrilled that it is my number 15. It could be higher. Honestly, you'll probably see it go up. It's not going down on the list as we learn and experience more games. No way. It's going up. I say that with Brass Birmingham being, above it, so it might go down. But still, Trains is fantastic. I love this game. I would love to play it any day of the week. So that's my number 15. On to number 14, which I think is my favorite deduction game. Yeah, straight deduction game of all time. I like being able to kind of see this reflected in my tastes and choosing my favorites of each individual thing. And this deduction game is wicked fun. That game is Cryptid. I love Cryptid so much. At 3 players, I feel like the smartest person ever. At 4 players, I feel like the dumbest idiot in the world because there's too much stuff to keep track of. And at 5 players, I might as well not ever take an IQ test again because it's going to come out in the negatives. What I love about Cryptid is the incredible variability, again, that comes in this box. There's going to be 6 map tiles. That's it. And you arrange them in different ways, and then you put down little buildings on the map, and you are given one clue. One clue about where the monster is. You know that the monster is within one space of a forest. So it could be in a forest space, it could be one space beside a forest space. That's what you know. But what I know the monster is within 3 spaces of a blue structure. And so I'm looking around the blue structure, and you're looking around the forest, and every turn you can ask somebody about their clue. You put a space on the board, you say, hey, could the monster be there, according to you? And they'll say, no, it can't, and they'll say, yes, it can. And what you're trying to do is find out what other people know before they find out what you know, because then if you know what everybody knows, you can use that information to pinpoint the one location on the board where the monster is. And so on your turn, you can say, I'm guessing that the monster's here. And everybody has to put their token down. If you're correct, you win the game. If you're not correct, well, the game continues, and you've just exposed a little bit more information about what you think everybody has around the table. It's so fun, and the fact that there are so many different variations in the box, and then you can go online and there's an additional app. I've introduced this to a bunch of new people. I've played it with very experienced gamers. It hits across the board, and I love trying to piece out that puzzle and map it out and figure out what other people know, and the tension around the room of, are they going to go for it? Do they have enough information? Can I afford to ask one more thing to clarify where someone is? Do I know what they have, or have I made a mistake? It's really fun. Even if somebody isn't playing correctly and they make a mistake and you go, you made a mistake. It's also fun like figuring that out as well. And the rounds play pretty quickly so that you can always just play another one. Cryptid, my number 14, just awesome. Oh, this is tough. But my number 13 is going to be Terraforming Mars. There's not a lot more to say about Terraforming Mars that hasn't been said in a bajillion top 10s out there, or top 20s, or top 100s. Terraforming Mars is just such a fun engine building game. I love, again, like Blood Rage, you get to draft your cards every round, and you're seeing what other people are developing. I love that you have your own corporation with your own special ability, and that's kind of determining your card play. I love that you're racing for all of these different things, and the order in which you do things matters so incredibly. Every time I play this game, I enjoy it more and more. I've only played with the base game and with the Prelude expansion and with the additional maps and whatever. My neighbor, I know this is probably his favorite game of all time. He's got all the stuff, all the bling. But it's a game that I wish my girlfriend enjoyed, because then I would get to play it more. I find myself craving it quite frequently and enjoying just watching it as well. I do some work for the World Series of Board Gaming. I'm their director of production, and they didn't sponsor the videos, but they're going to get lots of views. Congratulations. Actually, a super fun event. If you want to go, check it out. It's in Vegas. Doesn't matter. But I've gotten to judge and watch and comment on a number of Terraforming Mars games, and even just watching it has made me and enriched my experience of it. and enriched my enjoyment of it and made me more excited to get it back to the table. I find this is one where I'm always excited to get to the table. I'm always down if somebody wants to play a game, and just have had so much fun with. So this is my number 13. My number 12.5 is where Brass comes in. Brass Birmingham would fall here. It's 12.5 on the list. So we get a true top 21. And Brass Birmingham, also in the World Series of Board Gaming, also how I really discovered it and found out a love for it. Watching these high-level players play and seeing the strategy that can develop and seeing the hard economy that's in it, made enhanced only more by talking to Martin Wallace about his design and how he designs things. Enhanced even more when I realized this is the only game which utilizes the loan mechanic in a way that I like. Whereas it's really turned me around on the whole mechanic of loans. You're building and developing structures in the Canal era, and then you score a bunch of points and you try to do it all over again in the second phase of the game. And how you balance those two phases in terms of how you develop and what you prep for in those early stages and how that yields down the line, and the fact that each game is different in terms of what can be delivered where, so it changes the entire structure of the map and the entire importance of specific spots on the map. It's just such a fun game. This is a chonky game. Whenever I've taught this game, I think those teaching games have taken like 4 hours, and I've been engrossed the entire time, but it takes a while. Still, it is just so fun. If you like heavy economic games, check this one out. It's just fantastic. It doesn't overthrow my actual number 12, which is economic game. It's an older game too, but I still absolutely love it. And that is, the sack's getting too high. That is Power Grid. Power Grid is my number 12. Power Grid is an older game by Friedemann Friese, and what I love about Power Grid are a couple things. One, there's an auction phase. I guess I really like auctions. The auction phase is so satisfying because what's a little unique about it is that you can see the cards on offer that haven't yet arrived in the auction market. And so I can put something up for auction hoping that someone else will bid on it so that I get another chance to put a different thing up for auction that is just turned up. And that push and pull of trying to put something forward to make someone bid for it when you don't actually want it for yourself, but if everybody passes, you have to take it and you're out of the auctioning for good. That feels really exciting. I also love that the market, the more people take things, the higher the cost of things, and it only replenishes at a certain amount. And so uranium starts off super high, and then if nobody uses uranium, it actually gets quite cheap. And then the first uranium plant that comes up on auction, everybody's going for, and then trying to drain the thing of uranium. It's really neat how it's structured. There's a lot of math on the main board. I've lovingly referred to this game more than once as Math, the board game, and I quite like math, so that's probably why I quite like Power Grid. Every single little link, you start in one spot, and then to build through a link, you have to pay that cost, and every single link feels like it's a different cost with different arcs of how you fight people out of it. But yeah, that's my number 12. We're here already. We're at the end. Oh my goodness. This is going to be a two-part series, obviously, because I can't give it all away in one go. But we're down to my last game, my number 11. These are games that I truly love. This is a game that I truly love, that I'm so fond of. And this is something that I actually had to stop playing on Board Game Arena because I was getting too good at it. And I was worried that people wouldn't want to play with me in real life. And I just love playing it. And I love sharing it with people. And so I didn't want that to happen. This is a game that I think plays awesome at all of its 2 to 6 player counts, by Sebastian Bleasdale and Richard Brees, which is the first time I've realized that. This has gone beyond them. This is Keyflower. Keyflower, again, has that sort of bidding mechanic to it. But what's really special and unique about Keyflower that I've never really seen in another game is your currency is meeples, but different colors of meeples. And so if you start the bid, there are a number of tiles that are out in the center of the board. And if you start the bid on those tiles, you bid a blue meeple, only blue meeples can be bid on that tile. And someone else would have to bid 2 blue meeples on it to take it away from you. And so it's this balance of trying to control the finite amount, I can leave that up, the finite amount of meeples. that's better. The finite amount of meeples in the game, which you start out with unknown because it's behind a player screen. And then if you're keeping track, you can know and track, okay, this person has 6 red meeples, but only has 1 yellow meeple. So if I really want that, I'm just going to bid yellow. And then they're stuck. They may have so much buying power in the red meeples, but because they don't have enough in the yellow meeples, they have to reevaluate their whole plan. In addition, every tile you get gets to be put into your own little tableau, which people can use, and people can use those actions very similar to Le Havre, but any meeples on your own board come back to you at the end of the game. They're spent if they're out in the center, but if they're on your own board, they come back to you and come back behind the screen. And so by the end of the game, you've really grown your weight of throwing meeples around and are bidding on these larger tiles that are worth so many more points, while also trying to have this own little resource development game to flip over your meeples and make them worth more points and have better, more exciting abilities. The problem with having exciting abilities is that more people are going to want to use them. And if you really need to use it, it may be more worth it to use it than somebody else putting their meeples on it. It's just such an awesome back and forth. I think it plays incredible at 2 players because you have that like tension, that back and forth of knowing what the other person has and using that to your advantage. And then at 6 players, it's just a friggin' free-for-all, and you're just trying to use what you can and be the most desirable that you can, which, you know, is what I'm always trying to do. I'm always trying to be the most desirable that I can. So 9 games in front of me, 2 are out on loan. Well, 1 is out on loan and 1 doesn't belong to me until I steal it from him. These are my top 20 to 11 games, 21 to 11 games of all time. I hope you like them as well. If you do, let me know. If you have any questions about them, let me know in the comments as well. Started this board gaming channel because I love the hobby. I love talking about games. I love sharing games, and nothing brings me more joy than talking about something that I love and being able to share that experience and enable you to potentially have that same experience of fun and joy. And that's why I love talking about what I love, and I hope that if you get these, you love them as well. You can let me know why you hate them and why you're wrong, because again, remember, this is the definitive list. These are the top 21 games of all time for everyone. But I understand you may be from another planet, you maybe didn't get the memo, sure. But yeah, my top 10 will be coming out soon. This month has been very busy with a lot of things popping up that have timelines, so I'm trying to get this in as quickly as possible. Hopefully it won't make you wait too long. But if you want to know, you can always hit the notifications bell, and then it'll be like, hey, Room and Board posted this, and then you can click on the one that you like. I mean, being subscribed does that as well. I'm excited to share my top 10 with you. Thank you so much for watching. Drop your favorite games down in the comments below too. Drop what you think. If you want to guess what you think is going to be my top 10, hey, do that as well. I'm interested. See how well you know me. Do you get me? Or do you hate my friggin' guts? I do. I mean, I do. For the second one, I do. But it's okay if you do, because I do. Anyway, thanks again for watching. My name's Chris George. And you know what? I done ain't got no done god darn it catchphrase. I don't know what that was. See you in the top 10. Or in another video that YouTube will be suggesting to you right now.